September 24th, 2008, George Bush gets on TV and basically says, "Hey, we're in the middle of a serious crisis here, and the government's about to do something about it." That's the TARP speech. $700 billion. And love him or hate him, whatever you think of the guy, that was the moment where somebody in charge just said the quiet part out loud. We have a problem. Here it is. Here's what we're doing. We need that moment again. Except for this time, it's not banks. It's oil. And I don't think anybody's going to say it, which is exactly why I'm going to say it to you right now. Fun fact, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was created in 1975, straight out of the 1973 oil embargo. The whole point of it was so the country would never get caught flat-footed like that again. Congress actually wanted it to hold up to 1 billion barrels eventually. What they actually built out was a cap of just over 700 million barrels. Right now, it's got less than 316 million barrels in it. Everybody's reporting that it's below half. And technically, sure. But here's the thing. This reserve was never going to zero. There's a real floor. 273 million barrels. That's the limit Congress set. Plus the operational buffer, the DOE actually needs to stay above it. We're at 316. That's about 40 million barrels of real cushion left, out of a reserve built to hold 700 million. We've already burnt through something like 90% of what's actually usable. This isn't half empty. We're close to the real bottom. So I've already told you, I'm doubling down on oil. I've told you why. Hormuz, China reserves, all of it. But there's a piece of this I don't think I explained well enough, and it's actually the scariest part. That 85 to 90% number I just gave you, on top of that, this is also the lowest the reserve has been since 1983. Full stop. No floor math needed to make this one sound bad. And here's the thing that actually made me sit up. It's not just the numbers low. It's the rate that we're pulling it out that has slowed down a lot. And when I saw that, my first thought was, okay, that's actually good news, right? We're being more careful. But when I started digging into it, and I don't think it's a choice, I think it might be that we physically can't pull it out as fast anymore. There's 4 sites. Bryan Mount can do about 1.5 million barrels a day. West Hackberry's capacity actually got reduced because inventory is so low there. Bio Choctaws, I think that's how you pronounce it, it's under 500,000 a day. And Big Hill, one of the biggest sites, it's at zero. It's offline for construction. So just add that up. That's a real ceiling. And it's lower ceiling than what we had a year ago. But here's the part that actually worries me more. These caverns are salt caverns. And salt caverns were never built to be drawn down like this, repeated chunks and over. They were built for one big emergency draw. When you keep doing small partial draws like we've been doing, you don't get a nice clean cavern. You get weird leaching. You get deformation. And I'm not just speculating here. After the 2021 sales, they actually went and checked the caverns, and 11 out of 26 of them already showed signs of damage. 11 out of 26. So when I look at that drawdown rate slowing down, I generally don't know which it is. Is it that we hit the mechanical ceiling? Or is it that somebody looked at those cavern reports and went, if we keep pulling at this rate, we're going to wreck this thing permanently? Maybe it's both. Either way, that reserve's not the safety net that people think it is anymore. This isn't a someday problem. Brent is sitting around $86 a barrel, up something like 14% in just the last week because of what's going on with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. California is already over $6 a gallon at the pump. And I've seen people in the press start saying words like gas lines, like the 1970s gas lines. That's not me being dramatic. That's actual reporting right now. So if I'm right that the reserve is basically tapped out as a backstop, then the only other lever left is demand. We've done this before. In the 1970s, they did odd-even rationing. If your license plate ended in an odd number, you could only buy gas on odd days. They dropped the highway speed limit to 55, and that alone estimated to save something like 200,000 barrels a day. Carter went on TV in a cardigan and told people to turn down their thermostats. These are real things government can just do. And there's actually a really obvious one sitting in front of us that nobody's pulling the trigger on. And it kind of drives me a little crazy. Work from home. There's actual research. The IEA looked at this. It says if people work from home just 3 extra days a week, that alone can cut vehicle passenger fuel by something like 2 to 6%. Road transportation is something like 45% of global oil demand. And that is not a rounding error. And I'm not the only one saying this. There's already opinion pieces out right now arguing federal government should bring back telework for roughly half of federal employees who are even eligible for it. Other countries are already doing this because of the Iran situation. We're not. So here's my actual ask. I know nobody with actual power is watching this channel, but here it is anyways. The government needs to get on TV and say stop driving if you don't have to. Companies that already have the ability to let people work from home need to just mandate it temporarily the way you would mandate anything else in an emergency. Prices going up will eventually change behavior. Sure, but prices are slow. Slow doesn't help you when the reserve you'd lean on in an emergency might not be able to bail you out anymore. That said, to be honest with you, I don't think any of this happens. Nobody wants to be the politician that tells people to stop driving. That's not a popular thing to say. And let's just assume none of it happens. None of the sensible stuff gets done, and figure out how you would actually invest around that. If demand doesn't come down, and the reserve can't bail us out the way it used to, that's just bullish for oil. Plain and simple. I've already told you my plays out there. There's a piece of this I haven't really talked about yet, which is the crack spread. The crack spread is basically the profit margin refiners make turning crude into gasoline and diesel. Right now, that spread is at a record. The 1-2-3 crack spread hit almost $70 a barrel. The diesel crack spread went over $91 a barrel. Those are records, and the reason is Russia stopped exporting diesel. Plus, everything going on with Iran is messing with Middle East refinery production exports too. Here's my actual take on it though. The oil producers themselves are not the ones capturing that money right now. The refiners are. And I don't think that lasts. Historically, that kind of gap just doesn't sit there forever. It tends to work its way back towards the crude. So when I look at that crack spread being stretched, I read that more as fuel, pun intended, for crude prices to keep climbing, not less. On the other side of this, what I'd be nervous holding into this is anything that eats fuel costs directly and doesn't have pricing power to pass it along. Airlines are the obvious ones, especially the ones already loaded up on debt. And consumer discretionary stuff generally, because when people are paying $6 a gallon, that's money that's not going to a restaurant or a new couch. Let's wrap this all up. Even in a scenario where this actually does get bad, real shortages, real economic hit, I don't think the response is going to be nothing. I think eventually the government prints money to paper over whatever breaks. And if that happens, the stuff that gets knocked down in the meantime, real assets especially, tend to come back even harder once that money actually hits the system. I've got more to say on exactly how I'm playing that side of it, but that's honestly its own video. So I'm going to leave it there for now. That's where I'm at. The reserve's lower than it's been in over 40 years. The rate we can pull from it might be maxed out or close to it. And the obvious lever, just driving less, isn't something anybody in the charge is willing to say out loud. So I don't think the sensible thing happens. I think oil goes higher because of the shortage. And if I'm wrong about the shortage, I think it goes higher anyways because of what gets printed to clean up whatever mess that follows. Either way, same direction for me. Let me know what you think. Am I crazy? I certainly hope so. Anyways, as always, good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.